Here's another interesting caveat while working with CNs and get lines. They both do very different things, and because of how they interact, they could actually hurt one another. So there is a madness to the method here that you have to actually think about when you're designing your application. Remember first that CN is great for if you just want to get a string that has no spaces and just one word, forgive me, or one token. Fine, nothing wrong with that. Get line is something that you're going to have a line that is going to have spaces in between, like just that line that I'm pointing out has spaces in there and everything else like that. If you want to get something like that, great, use get line. But there's a problem. Remember that spacing is important to both of them. So what I'm showing you is ways of messing with CN first, and this one I'm trying to mess with CN. What I'm doing with this one, in this first name, is supposed to be your first example. I'm supposed to get the username and the password. But notice instead of just doing first and then hitting enter, I did a space and then last, then I hit enter. Because this particular program was looking for two inputs, it went ahead and did it and actually broke them up for first and last, so you can tell, using that space to break things up. The CN will ignore any front spaces before that. So that's how last came out okay. But again, this particular program was looking for two CNs that happened to work out. The other thing that we try to do is that if we try to hit enter instead of putting something in, and then we finally put in a value, I did it for both of them, for the username and password. And notice again, CN just ignored all the enters and all the goop that was in front of the actual real data, which was D in both cases. So CN was okay with that. Bad part is what if you want an application that really wants to do both? You want to grab a line and you want to do a CN for some numbers, for some string, whatever, it doesn't matter. The bad part is you got to use getLine first before you use CN. So that means you might have to change the order of the data that you're collecting in order to accomplish this. And the reason is why? Is because, again, CN is going to ignore any spaces in front of it. And, well, frankly, after you hit the enter, that's going to actually count as data that the great old getLine is going to worry about. So that's really explaining these two things. So read those two things carefully. I kind of went over it, but still, be careful about that. A get line after a CN will skip and pick up the CN's garbage, even though it's just the enter. That's data that's being sent, and that enter is going to pick up the garbage. Let me show you how. I want to make sure this is clear. This is going to be the output when we use CN and then use getLine. This is the output when we use getLine before our CN. The code down here is the order that it should be when everything is said and done. In this one, this is our problem child. I use CN to grab in the username, and then I had a getLine to get the password for some reason, bear with me. Notice it completely skipped getting the password. Now you can tell it completely skipped because look at the debugging I did for password. There is nothing there. That's a problem. So what we would have to do is adjust our program, our application slightly to make sure we do the get lines first. And yes, you can do several get lines. Here we got the username as a get line. Then we did the CN for the second part, which is the password, and it had no problems with either one of those. And that's really using the code that you see right here. So again, anytime that you know you're going to have to use a get line, do that first. Get all of that data first, and then you can use your CNs for anything else after that in your application. So just a heads up.